to partner with other brands and bigger brands and even having in my time of doing in-store events and stuff with Macy's, like just doing something like that would be amazing. I've done it on the smaller scale of more small business boutiques. Being from Hoboken, have a small soft spot in my heart for small business. It's a very small business oriented community, but certainly doesn't mean I'm not open to partnering with larger brands as well. I think just understanding that world, having worked in branding for bigger companies before and understanding the importance of it, um, really can go a long way and serve not only the people that I'm working with behind the scenes, whether that the event managers and all that, but also just really helping to bring that brand to life and really elevating that guest experience. I mean,
I
I
love
know it's always a great thing for retailers when they can engrave or do calligraphy on perfume bottles because guests can't return that after their name's personalized on it. So it's
Yeah,
also a win from that standpoint too. But
yeah,
there's a lot of great opportunities for sure.
I love it. So we are recording, and then so Danielle, I asked you to just impromptu come on because we were both free and talking, and I just realized you have a very great service offering, so I wanted to capture it. So just wanted to, if you can,
Yeah,
just can you introduce yourself and what your business name is, and then what you do? Because I didn't want to
absolutely.
misrepresent it.
No, I appreciate that so much. I am Danielle Gizzo Duca. I am the owner and calligraphy artist of Handwritten in Hudson. We are a calligraphy and branding studio based in Hoboken, New Jersey, primarily serving the New Jersey and greater New York City area, but open to traveling across all 50 states and beyond. Really servicing anything from custom live event on-site calligraphy to signage to stationery, really all of the elements that can help amplify and elevate the guest experience is what we're here to do and provide.
I love that because it resonates with so much that I do as an event professional. And we're always talking about that elevated experience and what that attendee experience looks like. So you hit all of those touch points that I always talk about how to really up level an event, but make it meaningful and why people would come. So it sounds like you're, and it's what's interesting just hearing from you, it's not just a service or it's not just selecting something. You put a lot of thought and care because you're talking about branding. So having that background, how does that help, really give that experience and, weave it into what you do?
Sure. So as you touched on, I come from a background in brand marketing. I spent almost the last 15 years across the corporate sector, from corporate retail, working for Macy's in brand marketing, to leading global brand marketing for AccuWeather on their web and app, to working most recently in the employment experience space in employer branding. So I've always really taken my career in this world of branding. And when I thought about the creation of Handwritten in Hudson, it was like, how do I evolve branding some more? And I really wanted to capture it on that individualized level. I've built brands, global brands, really nationally known brands, and really wanted to take it on that individual level, not only for people, whether it is their personal milestone moment or their wedding, but also really that personalized opportunity when they're in any sort of event experience, whether that is um, a brunch and an outing or an in-store event or an on-site branded activation that another company is holding, really giving that level of personalization and branding. Um, it just, I think it takes it to a different level. Brand marketing is so many, like it can just have so many different things to so many people, but I always am a firm believer in all of my marketing experience. I've always said is meet people where they're at. And that's something I believe wholeheartedly. And I think when you are truly meeting people when they are physically present in an event, it's like go to where the people are, create that branded moment for them. I think it also helps the brands that I am privileged enough to get to partner and work with make that cohesive connection and that synergy with their attendees.
Okay, this is interesting topic because what I'm hearing is, looking at your brand and carrying it with you through the event. And what I've seen, just as an attendee or just someone as being a part of the event, we look at activations as just what they are. So
Mhm.
a lot of times there's not the branding, of course there's a logo being put on something or maybe there's a swag bag, but there's not a lot of intent behind it
Mhm.
that I feel like it's a missed opportunity, right?
Sure.
Because people can come to that event, they feel it, they're part of the energy and they get to take something with them. And now, they're connecting that company and brand with that event. So being
Mhm.
able to cohesively weave in little things, I see why they need a person like you because a lot of times, just as an event organizer, you're not thinking about all those smaller details that it takes to really, put together that brand experience.
Yeah.
So really interesting a conversation because I'm not used to hearing this honestly about branding and event of activations. It's usually separate. Do you find
Yeah.
that as well, or?
I think it can be separate to some extent, but I really feel like to me it's about driving that cohesion. Like you hit on it when you said cohesive experience. That is all about for me what Handwritten Hudson really looks to provide is a cohesive experience for individuals for their event for their events for them. And really, I think that cohesion is what helps elevate brands. It's what helps elevate the experience that they have in their event. It's what helps keep them top of mind for their guests, for their consumers. And that also is the important part too. It's not just what happens in those four walls or from X hour to X hour, it's what happens after that as well. And so that's the beauty, I think, when you bring something like this integrated experience that's really personalized, what bringing, calligraphy, something that's whether it's, putting something on a water bottle,
Yeah.
um, whatever that looks like, people feel like it belongs to them and in a way like they become more connected to the brand that's a part of the event. It's like I think nowadays people are smarter than ever when it comes to brands. When they're thinking about their purchasing, when they're thinking about just brands that they follow on social media, whatever it might be, people are really um I think really compassionate about the brands that they align themselves with, but also really purposeful. And so I think really having an experience that allows for them to feel connected to it in some way. And yes, that could feel as simple as having your name on something, but when you're already attending something that you believe in, you align with their brand or their morals or, just how they show up. And I know that there's a lot of that happening and questioning of that in this world that we're in today, but people really see, I think that level of like empathy and EQ really comes to the forefront as well because you're aligning yourself with something that you believe in. And I just think that the opportunity to share not only, my art with other people, but also just how it is, it's aligning, it's who I'm choosing to align with as a brand as well. Well, the brands that I choose to partner with, I'm also very intentional with as well, because I think that there's a statement to be made as you're sort of walking hand in hand with these brands. It's not just like, oh, someone's hiring me to be on site for a couple hours. It's is really what is the goal? I love asking my clients, when I meet with them, it's like, what are you really looking to get out of this? What is your goal? What is it beyond just having a booth and an activation? And, there is more to that. And I think you can really attest to that as an event manager yourself. Um, you know, whether that's other people asking you, what were the results of this and showing the data, or just also really trying to create something that's curated and cohesive and that people feel good about at the end of the day too.
Agreed. I feel like, and you made a comment about, people are more smarter about brands. And what
Mhm,
really comes to mind is that we see when it's an afterthought, when it's like, hey,
mhm.
a pen or a notebook, and there's no thought behind it. And we see the brands that actually put care into something and, from beginning to end. And brought their attendee in mind. So it's really interesting that you say I think companies, brands, businesses, they need to step up.
Yeah.
I mean, we're tired of a mug doesn't work or a t-shirt doesn't work.
And that's the
And
difference
it's not
between, yeah,
it's
like,
not necessary at this point. It's like,
totally.
you know what I mean? Like you're
Yeah.
actually wasting your dollars because we're giving it away. We're not. And so just me being in the industry, I go to a ton of events, a ton of conferences, and the amount of stuff that I don't take with me or I give away. But
Mhm.
let me tell you, if something's personalized, this is why I love to talk to you because
Yeah.
I've seen activations where it's personalized luggage tags or
Mhm.
it's a notebook, and you think I'm throwing that away? No, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's I get
Exactly.
to put something in it, and I remember that event. I remember that actual energy of me sitting, and they're asking me what do I want personalized, what's the story behind it. So now we're talking, now we're connecting, and I'm remembering that event. And there's several events like that. There's an event I went last year, and it was a customized luggage tag. When I tell you, it was just the most beautiful thing that it wasn't a flimsy piece of plastic on my luggage now. So it was very memorable. And I appreciate the brand who took the time to, I mean, it was very good quality. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah,
this company cares. This company is thoughtful.
absolutely.
This company is not by, you know, just throwing things together. So like that brand recognition and the connection between that activation, it really does work. I really feel that. But
Absolutely.
I'd love to kind of swing to back to you
Yeah. Yeah.
specifically because like I said, I just had that activation with the luggage tag. So as soon as you said you do calligraphy, I was like, oh, this is cool. um but I think right before we hit record, you were talking about how you got into it. So do you mind just if you can remember, like I'm curious about your story from from going from branding and being an artist to actually going into activations
Sure.
with calligraphy.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background, I mean, since I was a kid, I grew up doing visual arts all of my life. So I think it's always sort of been in my bloodstream, so to speak. In college, studied advertising and graphic design and really ended up taking more of the business route. I always knew in my background that my career background, I wanted to have a mix of business and creative. And ultimately, for the last almost 15 years, it led me more in the business route, doing marketing for brands like Macy's, for brands like AccuWeather, and really learning like the strategic side of storytelling. And I think that storytelling piece is what I really hung on to in my through line that brought me to creating Handwritten in Hudson. In my past experience, I was fortunate enough to get to do PR events, in-store events, live activations, really be in that event space. In addition to the branding aspect of how do you make something look and feel cohesive, thinking about all of the branded elements from the colors to the typeface to all of those through lines that happen to make a brand what it is, to make that connection with someone. And ultimately, what led me to creating Handwritten Hudson was really going back to my roots. I actually always like to tell this story that there was a night where my husband had asked me if I wanted to make homemade pasta, and we hadn't had the time. Work was crazy, things were going on, and I was like, you know what? When else do I have time? Sure, why not? And we busted out our little KitchenAid attachment that we had registered for during our wedding, and in making the pasta, it reminded me how much I missed working with my hands. And I love to tell that story because that's what made me really dig a little bit more into the art form and going beyond just, okay, I have all like this great business experience, this wealth of knowledge that I've been privileged and fortunate enough to gain in my career, but how do I now marry that with something that, almost going back to your childhood and those things that you grew up doing and loving? And calligraphy was something I always wanted to learn, something I took the time to learn, and just from there realized, okay, is this just something I want to learn and make a hobby, or is this something I want to go beyond that? And for me, that's where the wheels started to spin a bit more. That's where I started to think about, okay, how do I not just put by the wayside everything I've done for the last, the tenure of my career thus far, but how do I take that into the next evolution of things? And for me, it's always been branding that I've held on to and had a love for. So for me, it's been like, what is the next thing of that? And that's where I look at it as that more individualized experience, less about totally building like whole big brands, and more about how do you connect with that person on that individualized level. So I know that's a very long way of explaining how I got here, but that's really a lot of the genesis of what brought this business to what it is.
I love it. I love it. You had a story background. It's so funny too. You're like, hey, you found the exact connection when you knew to pivot. So it's like
Yeah.
I want to work with my hands because of this. So that's so interesting. And I'd say a very unique story. So okay, so you have the business, you started. Um, Now, for those who just don't know, like,
Sure.
what does that entail? You do calligraphy, but like, do you do it on certain, mediums? Do you, explain kind of? I know what I have in my head to
Yeah.
that are,
Sure.
certain things you could do, but can you name like some of the things that you've done or like what kind of
Absolutely.
mediums you work with?
Absolutely. So primarily when it comes to signage, for example, so I've
Mhm.
done, if you think about event signage, whether that's for a business and has a chalkboard sitting outside, I've worked with wellness studios doing service menus and mirrors. So I've primarily really started on glass mirrors, and acrylic and chalkboards. Essentially, are really like some of the primary mediums that I've started on when I first started to really on work on this and do this. To your point, Tiffany, absolutely. Can you do things like leather bound, books and things? Some of that, it's just really, and this is where I think having a calligrapher really is a benefit, is not only knowing what mediums, but knowing what inks take what and what
Yeah.
type of things you can do. So the luggage tags, for example, that you had, someone was more than likely doing what's called gold foiling on that.
Yeah, it was. It was gold.
And so it's, that's just a different type of medium that is used to ultimately create that luggage tag. But at the end of the day, the writing that's on it is still calligraphy. So
Right.
a lot of people, just think calligraphy is really pretty handwriting. It's in fact really a series of strokes that actually go together and formulate letters. So sometimes it's less thinking about like, okay, I'm writing Tiffany and making sure I'm spelling it
Yeah.
correctly, and
Yeah.
more so thinking about, does this stroke, what's the next stroke to make the T, for example. So it's
Okay.
really just like a very strategic, interesting process. But um, in terms of the mediums, it really can be a variety of things. I think there's so many different opportunities. It's just knowing what, again, and that's where like the calligrapher knowing what the proper tools are to do, because ultimately when we're bringing it back to that guest experience, right? Like they don't want to have something that's great for an hour and then it rubs off, or
Yeah. Yeah.
something that gets damaged right away, and that's where having that knowledge of knowing, I know what certain types of pens or ink work with particular surfaces over others, which ones are better to do. I was actually testing something today with a client, to see how much certain inks can withhold in an infrared studio. So we're going to see how that
Hmm.
goes.
Okay.
Um, so there's just a lot of different ways that you can go about it. It really, I think, no. item or surface is off the table. I think it's just about getting creative, but also ensuring that you're partnering with someone that's knowledgeable in the materials, the surfaces, and the types of, supplies and calligraphy that they're using to ultimately put on whatever that branded piece is.
That's wow. Okay, so that's a really great clarification because, you know, I think, say me as an event organizer and saying, hey, I just want a cool thing to personalize. But it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, just working with you,
Yeah.
being able to talk out what's the best medium to work with,
Mhm.
different products, and then even weaving that into the event. I mean, maybe it doesn't need to be a luggage tag because, it's a book reading event. So maybe it's a bookmark. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing things out there. But
Absolutely.
um, so it sounds like when you say partnering up with someone knowledgeable, making sure that the right medium works for the right event as well, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah,
That's a
and that's where I think it's like a twofold. It's, it's getting creative and making sure that whatever items being personalized, let's just say, yes, you want it to align with your brand and make sense for the event. And yes, you may not put a luggage tag at a book reading, like you said, right?
sure.
Or you might, but it
You're
depends,
right.
if it's about travel,
Well,
you might.
I guess what I'm
Um,
getting at is, by talking to you, and I talk a lot about strategy and marketing. So,
yeah.
and I tell people we're not going to do things just to do them. So it's,
Hmm.
putting a strategy behind it, making sure it entails that it's going to be the best experience that it needs to be, right?
Yep.
So for people listening or curious about what can I do to, jazz up my event or I have my booth, it sounds like, the start and then you can, expound on this on how people start to work with you. Does it start with consulting and talking about the event details?
Yeah.
Um, but I guess to my point, we've talked about it before, not to just go in as an afterthought and really put, time and thought and really bring the event together,
Mhm.
to making sure that that is the right, activation for the event and it makes sense and it, achieves the goals for what you want your attendee
Absolutely.
experience to be. So how do
Absolutely.
people can start working with you if they do, or they're curious but still not knowing, okay, what medium should I do, or what gifting item should I do? Like how does it start with you? Um,
Absolutely. So really, primarily inquiries will come through my website, which is just the brand name, handwrittenandhudson.com. There is a contact form on there, and um, it's pretty robust intentionally. It's to make sure that, I'm just as much of a fit for my client as they are for me, because I think that's ultimately what's going to produce the best product for everyone. And so I start, once I understand and, digest that intake form, I start with an outreach. I typically do a consultation call with my clients, whether that's the event manager or agency or whoever it may be, really just trying to understand the focus and the goal for the event, who the audience is, if they have a product in mind already that they really want to put forward, or if they need that inspiration from me. I will come forward with a couple creative concepts, usually to not over inundate someone, 2 to 3 creative concepts of like, here's some ideas that we could do, based on your of course, understanding everyone's favorite word, budget,
right.
in the event space, understanding the budget. And I think this again is where having the background that I do really comes into play because I understand not only how important things like budget are, but also the logistics that may need to happen, um, all of the approval processes that may need
Yes.
to happen to get things done, and just all of those aspects, um, I think allow me to be mindful, be thoughtful, and also make sure that we have enough lead time to work with too.
Sure.
Um, because that's something that's really, really important. So we'll hop on a consult call. We'll discuss, do you need sourcing? Do you have something in mind? Where are you looking for me to best support you? Ultimately, like my goal is to make my clients feel good about what we're producing so that their guests feel even better about what they're receiving that day and that their experience is the best it can possibly be. We do anything from, like I said, from sourcing to just being on site. Um, Showing up with our tools in hand ready to go, but always what we like to do ahead of time too, to combat your earlier comment about like making sure it's the right surface and the right materials. We always, always, always test beforehand.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so we make sure we get samples of that product. If the company themselves or the brand themselves is sourcing it, we'll ask for some samples ahead of time, just to make sure to see, hey, can we play around with it? Maybe it is a new surface for us, or maybe it's something that we've worked on before, pending the type of material, but even something down to like glass or plastic, like it can be very different. Glass
Yeah.
is all very different glass depending on it too. So, whether you're just writing on it or especially if you're engraving it. If you're engraving on glass, it can be very, very different based on the type of glass. Like all wine bottles are very differently made, for example. You can not engrave on champagne bottles. That is something I think a lot of people don't know, but it has the potential to explode. Um,
Oh,
so we have to think about things like that. We have to be mindful of where are we putting that personalization. If it's glassware, um, not putting it too close to where someone may drink something. So
yeah.
it's just, it's really that intentionality that happens. And so, those things they don't all come to light in the 30-minute consult call, right? But those are things that we really dig at with our clients to make sure that we're setting everyone up for success by the time event day happens.
That's a lot of food for thought because well, I think we get caught up in, TikTok and Instagram and seeing photos and saying, I want this, or
Oh,
I
yeah.
had no idea I couldn't engrave on champagne bottles. So it's it's great that you work with someone who just knows and
And
can
that's where I think having, working with someone that's educated and also as a calligrapher, and I know other people in this space and in this community, I think we also have a job and a service to educate our customers and our clients too. Because to your point, like someone may be like coming full force, like, need this on a champagne bottle. And it's
right.
like knowing, the last thing we would want is sending someone home with one that then explodes in their face the next day or
Yeah.
just like breaks out of random. So I think it's just as much of like us as calligraphers and, whomever you're working with is having that knowledge, also educating other people that calligraphy goes beyond just pretty handwriting. So many people just jump to that's what it is.
Hmm.
And there's so many logistical factors that go beyond. And that's why I took the time to explain those little intricacies because also too, it just I think it's also for us as calligraphers and in that community of calligraphers, it is, you know, there's a value and a price tag that we also bring too. And I think it's because we bring that level of knowledge and skills and expertise at the same
Yeah.
time too. And it is beyond just pretty handwriting.
Yes, yes. And that's what I'm going to remember because you gave me a lot of thought in, just answering questions that I just never knew it that was involved in that. Um, so before I end our conversation, can you leave us with, you say it's not just pretty handwriting, but why should people, companies, brands, entrepreneurs, why is it important to select any type of event activation? What ROI have you seen from it? Have you seen, it enhance the event rather than not doing it? Because I think a lot of people will have a question about, oh yeah, it's pretty handwriting, but it's not necessary. So do you have any kind of thoughts for us to parting words for why we would invest in any type of event activation? in addition to, working with calligraphy. But I'm just curious on your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much for asking that. For me, I would say it's really, I think there's something to be said about personalization. I know that can be such a sticky buzzword for some people, but to me, I think that personalization brings with it connection, community, and I think those are things that we in this world right now are all craving so much of. And I
Yes.
think that any time that you can create an experience that brings those things to the forefront, it makes people feel good. It makes people feel connected and like they're part of something bigger. And so when a brand decides to have a branded activation, they are not just trying to, yes, there are important business goals 1,000%. There are what is the conversion of sales that this is going to drive? Is this going to bring social engagement? There's so many different types of goals and ROI that I completely get that event managers are being, pushed and challenged to think about when they're creating these events.
Right.
And I think it's important that that be kept in mind. By no means am I saying push that to the wayside. I think that is just as important to keep to the forefront as it is, what are people going to feel? What are they going to see? What are they going to do? That's something that we always used to really think
Mm.
about in my consulting role when we were working with companies on the employee experience. And we are trying to create opportunities to enhance the employment experience. And I would say the same thing really resonates here with any type of branded activation, whether it's a consumer event, an employee event, anything in between. It's what are people going to take away from that? How are they going to feel? What will they see? What are they going to do? And that really goes back to a lot of in marketing, really the like the psychographic part of things is like, and going back to the meeting people where they're at. So I think when you think about
Oh, I know you're a marketer. Oh, that's just the psycho demographics.
Hey,
A
I
marketer.
come with the knowledge. But you know what? But there's so much truth to it. There really, really is. And that's where I go back to going back to the basics, like, throw out the jargon of psychographic data, right? But bring it back to the simplified meet people where they're at.
Yeah,
And that is, I think, just the most important thing. Because that's what's going to make you as a brand and their experience feel the most authentic. And like I said earlier, people know how to cut through the noise and all the other things right now.
correct. And you're competing with so much out there,
Absolutely.
so much attention.
Absolutely.
Why should I go to your event?
Mhm.
There's all kinds of things you have to we keep in mind now for events. Those days
Yep.
are over where you can just put out an event, invite people, and they come. No, you're
Totally.
competing with people's attentions. You have to create a community. Your brand needs to say, okay, why should I go to your event? So
Yeah.
there's so many things to keep in mind now
Mhm.
that we did before, and you definitely said it. You definitely said what does that feel? What do people want to take from that event? So a
Yeah,
lot of things to consider. But yes, I agree. Thank you so much for this conversation. I know I can't
absolutely.
it
Thank
was
you.
a little impromptu, but
Yeah, happy to have it.
I I had no idea how involved this was, and I look forward to really diving in on more activations like this. So I'll make sure to I have you on my live, so I'll make sure to tag your information. But before I do, can you
Yeah,
say your company name again? And are
absolutely.
you on Instagram? And
I
where are
am.
you in this world?
I am. So again, I'm Danielle from Handwritten in Hudson, based in Hoboken, New Jersey. You can find me on social media at Handwritten in Hudson, or directly on my website at handwritteninhudson.com.
Oh, perfect. Danielle, again, thank you for our conversation and look
Ew.
forward to more conversations like this, talking about all things events.
Likewise.